It's time for the Film Crickets with Jay Fortier, Chris Martineau, and Melanie Howerton. On this week's episode, I fill in for Melanie and join Jay and Chris and review the 1984 American action drama film, Red Dawn. Does it stand the test of time? Let's find out. Your Film Crickets are on now.
All right. Hey, friends, and welcome to the Film Crickets. It's a podcast where we discuss movies from 1980 to 1999 and see how well they hold up today. So, I am Jay Fortier, and I'm along with my good friend Chris Martineau.
Yellow, Jay, what's happening?
Hey, doing all right, man?
Hey,
and
man.
Normally I would say hello to also our good friend Melanie Howerton, but she is off today, chilling somewhere. And, I'd like to say chilling in the Caribbean, but that's probably not the case. But
No.
Steve, my man, has stepped up. Steve Lavoie, welcome, my man.
What's going on? I have to apologize. I'm not nearly as good looking as Melanie, so sorry about that. And
I don't know. I'd say you're a handsome dude. I'm not sure about that.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, for a few episodes, I had to be Chris, so I had to talk like this the whole time. So now I have to be Melanie. This is really hard. I don't know. This is tough work here. So thanks for having me on the show again. Hopefully people aren't sticking me.
I think you can probably fill in the role if you just have some white wine, and some Christmas lights in the back, and you'll probably be all set. Yeah. Good to have you here, Steve. Good to see you.
Thanks, man.
And I'm glad to be back. I got to tell you something. Can I say just one thing quick? So I went to go see Yes last Sunday.
Yes.
Nice. Yes. Actually, yes. Ask me how many original members are left.
How many?
The singer, right? Is it the singer?
You didn't even let me ask you.
Sorry. The
John
singer
Anderson?
John Anderson is not in the band anymore.
Oh.
He's I think they just got tired of everyone else. So Chris Squire died, Alan White died, Steve Howe is left, and he's 75 years old.
He's the one that's
he's the
there?
bass player, right? Is he the bass player?
No, he's a guitar player.
Guitar player.
Who's the bass player?
Chris Squire, he died.
Oh.
So he was replaced by Billy Sherwood, and they actually have the guy from the Buggles, or Asia, Jeff Downs, was playing keyboard. The fact of the matter is that not only I know we're trying to do our show on movies, but Steve Howe's 75, and I got to tell you, the age of most of the people in the audience was about the same. Never seen so many canes, walkers. Oh, it was crazy. I'm like, every now and then you see like people my wife's age, 20 years older, and like every now and then like some like younger prog rock guy. There was only like 2 or 3 of those. Oh, it was crazy. It was like a librarian convention. Just all these like old people in sweaters. I'm like, what is happening? But that's all right. It was a really, they found it fantastic. So that's all. The rhythm section was on point. The drummer I saw was about 35, but Steve Howe was 75 years old. Crazy how old those guys are.
So I gotta ask you the big yes question. A lot of people do not like Owner of a Lonely Heart. They believe that was like the legs of ZZ Top. It was the sellout. It was. Do you feel that? Like, do you hear that song? And go, oh, I hate this song. Is that
fair enough? I would say it's kind of the gateway drug to Yes, though. So I know my brother, who started to listen to Yes, and why I like Yes, was in because of Owner of a Lonely Heart, and then he listened to that whole album like, wow, it's really good. And then he looked at the back catalog like, oh my God, these guys have like albums with 3 songs on it. They're all 18 to 22 minutes long. So, if it gets you into the band, fine. You know what I mean?
Every famous band has that, no matter what, like, and it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like sometimes, like if with or without it, it's like you're kind of screwed. If you don't play it, then you might make some people upset, or
right.
Like Kiss, right? Like Rock and Roll All Night, like what I mean. Like there's like there are other songs. Like you want to yell this to the radio, a Rat,
well, especially the radio,
Rat, man, freaking Round and Round. Like we got it. They're great. It's a fun song.
One song I think of too, which is another song like Owner of a Lonely Heart, would be Touch of Grey from the Grateful Dead.
Sure.
Right? I mean,
that's
you know what? That would actually be maybe bigger Meaning not bigger than the song itself. I'm talking about bigger of an effect of what you were referring.
Yep.
Like the whole, like, what? Where the hell were you guys when we were dancing around to them under the hot sun?
Yeah.
10 plus years ago.
Right.
But you know what? It made him money, and obviously, like you said, it made new listeners, or to listen to some of the old stuff, and I bet you there's a lot of people that started with that song and then made it to Roundabout or whatever other songs that they had. That's cool.
And speaking of them, speaking of Yes, there will be a time. There will be a time where we're going to say composed by Trevor Rabin, because he does movie scores. So.
Yep. Without Trevor Rabin, like, there's no Yes now. You know what I mean? Like, he just would have been gone. But you know what? Hey, whatever. Sorry. I mean, Touch of Grey is a great way to get into the dead, man. Like, Touch of Grey is it's such a neat song. You go, oh, I like it. And then maybe you listen a little bit to other stuff. But
it kind of happened with me. I mean,
Red Dawn.
Yeah.
Red Dawn, damn it.
Great conversation.
Last thing. I joke by saying I like some Dead. I like them. I like some of their music. I'll say, though, I'll tell people I like them. I just can't say I'm a fan because I like Touch of Grey.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Meaning, like, I'm sure you look at me and go, oh, he's not a true fan. He likes that song.
Well, I mean, I think John Mayer's doing a great job with them. What a phenomenal
Holy crap.
musician.
He is amazing.
He's so good.
He is so
good.
Freaking good, man.
He's so good.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what? I got two things for you guys. If you haven't heard it, it's live. It's from Where the Light Is. Okay, it's live Where the Light Is. Neon and Gravity. Watch him play those fucking songs live. Holy shit!
No, he's a virtuoso. Like, it's sad. It's too bad. Well, not too bad. Like, he gets saddled with playing pop songs, and that's it is. That's his reputation. But fucking hey, boy, that guy can play a guitar. There's no doubt about
everybody it. But if you see his live shit, it's not the poppy. He'll play those songs, but it's almost like here's a way to get to the next song that's like 8 minutes. So pretty great. And now, all right. So, Melanie, we miss you, and I don't think we're doing TMI today because I don't have a list of stuff as far as and it says
it just wouldn't be the same.
Melanie, like her name is attached to the bumper, the breaker, whatever you want to call it, and so we're gonna
TMI.
just so any actual trivia.
Yep. We'll save it.
Will
total
be
Melanie. Total Melanie interruption. Sorry. Okay.
Right. We're gonna interrupt it from having our Melanie back.
Melanie inspiration.
Oh,
right.
Sorry, I'm Mr. Negative.
I have. Well, listen. I have to. I'm her today, so I have to defend her when she's not here.
All right. So let's talk about one bit of trivia. It's the first ever PG-13 film.
That's true.
I didn't know that.
From
I didn't know.
1984, and basically earlier in the summer or early in the year, Steven Spielberg basically kind of got the ball rolling, I think, because he almost got an R rating for Gremlins, and he was like, how about a rating that would be in between, like type of, that it's edgier than PG, but not quite R. So that's kind of where, and Red Dawn ended up being the movie that got it first. It's funny, I always think of the autumn when this movie, I know it came out in August, and but by the time it was winding down, I never saw it in the theater. And this is usually where we talk about that part. By the way, last week I totally forgot to do the IMDb breakdown. We totally missed it.
Did. I was going to remind you, and I'm like, we'll just let it go.
It's all right.
That's fine.
So I'll just say the first time I saw it was probably a year after it came out on cable, because I didn't go to the theater. Anything war, I'm usually not drawn to, even though this is not a war necessarily, like, film.
Yeah.
It is, but it isn't. It's fantasy world.
Yep.
But
it's funny you say that, Jay, because I think of Naked Gun. Weren't they watching like Platoon and they come out laughing? They're the only ones.
Yes.
Remember that scene?
Right,
when you just said that, you don't see war films in the movie theater, I just thought of that scene in Naked Gun.
Yeah. I usually don't. I just because it's, it makes you feel bad, and usually So, and this is not quite it, but like, I was looking towards other things at the time.
Yep.
So, so I saw it about a year after, and I've always liked it. It was always like something I enjoyed. It's nothing, I wasn't living by it. I wasn't like making it my number one ever. I do like that intro, the music. The score for the intro is great, I think.
The score is
super
really
patriotic.
Yeah.
Super
I like
patriotic.
It.
Okay.
So it just has a nice ring to it, a nice feel.
I agree.
Yeah, that's my story.
Right.
Just, I've seen it many times over the years.
Steve, when was the last time you saw this movie?
What time is it now? It was this morning, and I didn't watch 80,000 takes or different parts on YouTube. I actually paid for it.
Wow!
And watched it. Yeah, no commercials. Watched it all the way through.
Good for you.
Just under 2 hours, but it flies. I was just like, when I first saw, I'm like, I mean, to me, I saw
Chris
your face.
obviously agrees.
Not at all.
I thought it did. I don't know, maybe.
Okay, that's fine.
And maybe because I watched it early this morning. Like, I was up around 6:30 this morning, and I'm like, I gotta watch this movie. So I was watching it pretty early, and I thought the movie went by pretty quickly. But no. First time for me watching it, I didn't really know what it was about. Was kind of weird seeing the names of who was in it. Going, wow, these people are in kind of like a war movie, like kind of neat, I mean, obviously it's different watching it now because probably back then they hadn't starred in those things yet. I don't think. I think that a lot of those movies were still yet to come of what I kind of knew them from. So yeah, I mean, I definitely that was my experience this morning watching it.
All right, well, I will say that I didn't see it in the theater when it came out. I know I saw it on video after. I want to say, I don't know if it was pirated or not. I don't remember that. I do remember seeing it. I remember watching it with friends. I don't remember who. But I do remember the vibe was, ooh, here's this movie. It's PG-13. It's one level up. And I remember watching it. I don't remember not liking it. I don't remember my opinions of it at the time, honestly. I just don't remember. I did not like it. That's all I can say about that. I do also remember that this was at the time when, I mean, any movie with gunfire, I was all in. Like Commando, the last 20 minutes when it's just automatic gunfire with Arnold Schwarzenegger taking on 500 people. And anything that had that kind of thing, I guess it was kind of in my G.I. Joe phase. Even though no one ever got hurt on G.I. Joe, the cartoon show. But
or Commando.
Or Commando. Well, no,
standing
not
still.
Arnold. Yeah,
I'm just
standing
joking.
still. Everyone's shooting at him. Yeah. So
he's
so
right there.
I know. Just get him. He's huge. For God's sakes. Wow. How do you miss that guy?
He's right next to the chopper.
He's next to the chopper. He's all bulked up on steroids, and you can't hit him. So the bottom line is that, well, how do you miss him? He's big as a tree.
But if you did hit him, think of the water tidal wave that would come out of his muscles with all that water wave.
Valid point.
With all the steroids. It'd be like popping a water balloon.
This smells like Arnold. So the bottom line here is that I would say the subtlety of it was lost on me at the time. The message was probably lost, except for when his buddy has to, spoiler alert, they have to kill one of their own at one point. But to me at the time, which seems to me the toughest moment of the movie, I just remember like that not sinking in. I just remember going, oh, that's awful. But now that I'm older and I realize, kind of more of the adult themes of the movie and where it's going, I just don't think it dawned on me at the time. So, but since then I had not seen it, did not watch it more than once. Hadn't seen it in a while, and I watched it last night in way too long of 2 hours. Boy, is this movie crawl. But that's just me. Steve and I are going to differ on that, and that's fine.
Is that why Jay's in the middle? Is that why
maybe
Jay's the middle
maybe
picture? All right.
Yeah, he's the great moderator because he's moderate. So you want to do the IMDb? Want me to read it off?
Yeah.
We'll get into this thing. All right. Here we go. So we have Red Dawn. Came out in 1984. Comes in at 1 hour and 54 minutes. And the tagline is, or IMDb breakdown, is the following. It is the dawn of World War III. All right, this is not a news show, folks. So what I just said is not the truth. It is the dawn of World War III. In the West Mountains of America, a group of teenagers band together to defend their town and their country from invading Soviet forces. This is directed by John Milius. I'll tell you this, John Milius is one of the writers on Jaws. I don't know if he's directly credited, but he did help out with the screenplay of Jaws. Writer was Kevin Reynolds and John Milius. We are starring Patrick Swayze, Handsome Man, C. Thomas Howell, Leah Thompson, Charlie Sheen, Darren Dalton, Jennifer Grey, Brad Savage, and I'd forgotten, and I miss Harry Dean Stanton. Plays his usual Harry Dean Stanton self. But that is the cast
and also,
crew. Yes?
The mayor is the guy from My Cousin Vinny.
Yep. And it's funny that he
prosecutor from My Cousin Vinny.
Right, and he cranks up that accent pretty well. And I don't know if he dials it down or dials it up for which movie, but it's obviously there. So that's Red Dawn. So guys, there's a lot of ways we can approach this movie. So I first, if you don't mind, let's talk about patriotism, shall we? Right. So we're in 1984. Wasn't it a lot easier when you wanted to make movies about America when we had a target that we could say was meaner than us? Remember when the Soviets were the key point of every action film? Rocky IV, this. So you can make an argument for Commando, all the First Blood movies, maybe not all of them, second one, third one. It's just crazy how much Top Gun, don't forget Top Gun, like so many movies. Am I missing any? Can you think of any others where the Soviets were the
Rambo
main problem?
Well, I would even go as far
as
but
Vietnamese are communists, so Soviets by extension.
Oh, okay, all right.
Anything communists.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, you're right.
Okay.
You're right, Jay.
Fine.
You're right. Absolutely. Anything communist. So, what other ones am I missing?
Well, I think a real movie would be Miracle. I mean that's a real movie, but
that's a good
movie.
That's
later,
the Russians, right? So
yeah,
no,
that was
1980.
later, yeah. No, but the movie itself.
The movie.
I thought you meant the movie.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
By the way,
the whole thing. The whole thing. For the 1980 Olympics, because Jimmy Carter, I think, had boycotted in 76,
yep,
or something, because it was in Russia, like for the summer games or something, or whatever. And then they went and did the he was like, well, apparently. He's going to send the Russians over here anyway, and that made it bigger and better. So, the whole thing. So, therefore, this movie taps into that same vibe, like the same fears that everybody had. I mean, what was it, a year, or maybe even the same year, or maybe like a half a year before, there was the TV movie the day after that scared the shit out of people. My parents wouldn't let me watch it. They're like, don't. Not my parents. I'm saying TV and everybody was saying, don't let your children watch this. So here I am, doing homework or something, and I hear the missiles taking off, and I'm trying to peek in the room, hey, don't let me.
Right.
I think that fear with the Russians, I think, also played the other way too. I think they feared the United States as well, because I was watching a 60-minute show years ago, and they had a Russian spy who now lives in this country, and they said, what were the things that I think it was Gorbachev at the time, what did he fear the most? And he said two things, and he said one was Ronald Reagan, and the other was AIDS. Those are the two fears that the Russians feared the most.
It would be even worse. It would be Ronald Reagan with AIDS.
Hey guys, real quick. Yeah. I will bring this movie up every time I have an opportunity, and it's Hot Tub Time Machine, and they're talking some of them are excited. They're back in 1986, and one of the guys who doesn't care goes, this is the 80s, man, free love. And he goes, that was the 60s, dipshit. And then somebody else goes, we had Reagan and AIDS. Let's get the fuck out of here.
All right, time to go. Time to go.
That was pretty funny.
No, Steve, I totally get what you're saying. I'm just looking from like a cinema perspective. The movies that we were cranking out, I understand that we can't. It would be blind to think that the Soviets weren't afraid of what we could do, and we weren't afraid of what they could do, and that was the whole arms race to begin with, right? It was just mutual fear of what we were both capable of after World War II. I'm just talking from a cinematic standpoint, like how many enemies got, and then as things change, like in Iron Man, if you look at any of the early Marvel movies, we're worried about Muslims, we're worried about people in the Middle East, right? So the targets are always changing, but in this movie, because there was such a quote Red Scare, even though it's a little later on for the Red Scare, that's what they're trying to tap into. Like, what if at any moment, so let's take nukes off the board for whatever reason. By the way, so much exposition in type at the beginning just to let us know what's going on, because this movie, even though I think it takes too long, wastes no goddamn time getting to the action. Paratroopers come down. People with machine guns come out, and here comes the teacher to be the sacrificial lamb. I gotta tell you, folks. If I see a dozen people landing, setting up with grenade launchers and automatic weapons, I'm gonna go, hey, what did he actually say? Can I help you guys out with something? Did he say that?
Something like that. It was like say there, son, or something like it was something along those lines. Yeah. And I real quick trivia. I got trivia for you. I've read this in a couple places and heard it. So it's got to be true. But it's one of those things that has that urban legend feel. Apparently, the stunt went a little wrong. Now, you got to understand, these are stunt people. These are not real enemies coming from the sky. So now I want you to picture a strong wind comes along and blows you a little off course. Now, you have a military colored parachute. You have a foreign-looking outfit on, and you have a prop machine gun, and you land in a tree. You land in a tree that is owned by a farmer or other like townsfolk that aren't aware that there's a movie being filmed. So you're being held at gunpoint when you're like having to say, I swear to God, I'm a stuntman. I am not a Russian. It's like, man, that's got to be a scary thing.
That's so
I love
funny.
That story, though.
That is so funny. Oh my God! It's like, no, it's just a movie. And
no, it's true. I mean, it really. I mean, it's that's. But like you say, it's weird because it's a classroom now. He has a direct door to the outside, right?
Yeah.
He has these big windows. And he has a direct door right to the outside, and he's he's actually going over a lesson of how people invaded back, and he was like a history teacher. So during his lesson, it happens.
I'll tell you what. I agree. I'll tell you one reason this movie doesn't hold up when he's given that lesson and just talking is all the students were paying attention. That's how you know this is an old film. There's no graphic organizers. There's no standards on the board. There's no video interfaces. Nobody's on their phone. Nobody's on their computer. No one's sleeping. Everyone's like rapt attention about Genghis Khan. Okay, sure. I can barely keep kids' attention when I talk about like how a nuclear weapon works. So anyhow, it comes in and it wastes no time. First thing we see is a dead child with a bullet hole in the head hanging out the window. Like, that's crazy. So they're not messing around with this movie. And then Patrick Swayze, Jed, good old Jed. He had just dropped that kid off. He must have been so aggravated. Now I got to double back, pick his ass up, and go bring him somewhere else to pick up Charlie Sheen. So right away we have, I think what the movie does really well, at the beginning at least, is it sets up it gets going right away. It sets up the initial stakes of we're on our own, we're cut off from everything. And that's where, they say that at the beginning, whatever reason, NATO has dissolved, the UN has dissolved, and the United States is on its own. Okay, super. And now this little town is somewhere on its own. And I think it kind of sets forth that initial panic of what do we do? Where do we go? What about our families? What are we supposed to do now? Do we hunker down? We need supplies. How many supplies we need? And there's a really neat initial panic. Luckily, they're in the Midwest or somewhere. Are they actually? Well, they're in Colorado. Was this filmed in Colorado? Anybody know?
I think it was.
I want to say Nevada and another Western style. I know one of them is Nevada.
All right, because Colorado can have both snow and some of it is a desert, which we see both of in this movie. Mountains of snow and desert. And that's very, very hot and dry. So I guess my point there, and I'll shut up, is that they set this initial panic and we don't know what to do, or they don't know what they're going to do next. But my whole thing was, and it's believable because in Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, people, the gun ownership is much higher than, so I would imagine it's believable you come across a gas station that sells bullets, because the motto out there is you have to be armed, not because it's cool, but because the next police station is 150 miles away, so you might have to defend your territory. Fine. I can dig all that. They're big on hunting. I can dig it. That's cool. I guess my problem is, if you're going to invade the United States, are we going to have a full court press in the middle of nowhere? I mean, honestly, isn't there a better tactical, can you guys correct me on this? Isn't there a better tactical target than, I don't know, Bohunk nowhere, Colorado? Did anyone see any strategic significance to the town that I missed?
No, I was just going to say that, I mean, like obviously more went everywhere else, but I know what you're saying. You would go for the masses first.
Yeah.
To kill the masses and then move on to the podunks
yes.
of the world.
Yeah,
right?
They're setting up
right,
like I can see like if they were trying to block off like a mountain pass, but they weren't. It was the middle of the Yes.
No, I was gonna say unless they were thinking, this is like a total thing, like meaning they're going everywhere, not just New York City and LA and everything. Where no matter where you live, you can't escape. So maybe they were going for that discomfort.
I think they were going for, to be honest, because we're in Soviet paranoia mode with movies. They're everywhere. At any point they could do whatever because they're really powerful. The first shot of the movie is like Main Street America, right? Little town, Main Street America, quiet, everybody just doing their thing. And even Main Street America is about to be attacked. So our way of life is about to be invaded upon, rather than going to like the crappy end of Detroit, like whatever. Nothing against Detroit, guys. Just saying. Whereas this is symbolized by Main Street America. Fortunately, not really diverse, but whatever. But I think it was more symbolic, though if you think about it, it makes no sense to go there. But it is also in the wide open. So even if they were trying to defend their position against potential recursive, I can't think of the word. Americans trying to get that land back. There's not a lot to defend. There's no mountains that are right around the town. It's not in a valley. Sorry, I'll start talking this stuff. But I don't know. That's, to me, it was a little unbelievable. But I got it from a symbolic standpoint. Anybody on that?
Well, I think the scene at the beginning, although a little weird with the teacher and stuff. Okay, I can see that happening, right? Let's say this is how they plan to attack, even though they're attacking a small town. Where I kind of lost it as he picks him up in the pickup truck. And they're shooting at him, and he manages to get away in the pickup truck. Okay, I can deal with that. I can deal with him getting away in the pickup truck. But they're going down the road, and then they hit that roadblock, and out of nowhere, there's a helicopter that's flying, and they shoot out the roadblock. So you're assuming that that's the United States government.
Yep.
That is the last time, for the most part, we see any action by the United States government. So where did this one lone helicopter come from? That was really an odd section of the movie. I mean, it was the beginning section of the movie for me. I'm like, all right, what's going on here? This is weird. I can dig the whole thing. They're landing. They have to get away. But that was just odd. Like out of nowhere. So now we know the government is onto it and they know about it.
Right.
Then we don't see him again.
Right. And I think, Steve, that's my wife. Well, go ahead, but Jay, go ahead. because I get a good coat.
No, I was going to say they
I'm
probably
agree with
were,
them.
like I said, they're trying to set up fear. So I think it was a matter of, okay, we got a little bit of hope, but we're still apparently losing this shit. So, you know what I mean? The U.S. is overrun, you know, like, so that moment is hopeful. But I think they still wanted you to be very uncomfortable, feeling like, okay, you know, they apparently aren't fully winning, you know, like in our own home. They're winning, it seems, like, meaning Russia was, you know, because they wanted you as the audience member to go, oh crap, like now what are they going to do? You know what I mean? Like, so I think, yes, there's a little, I think it would be maybe more confusing if there was no presence of U.S. at all. Like what are they just sitting around on their hands? You know what I mean? That type of thing. So go ahead.
But I think, and that was what my wife and I were, when wife and I agree on this movie, like the idea is super. Like it's a really super idea because it lends itself into a movie that isn't necessarily about patriotism. It's about like not only growing up, but understanding that if you are going to go to war to defend your country, it doesn't, like, this movie does a great job starting out as, hey, America, we're going to defend it. And you should. This is not an anti-America slam right here, right? But we should defend it. Absolutely. Absolutely defend it. You got invading forces coming in. Sure. And then it turns from, you know, it's fun to shoot at the enemy to it's fun to win. And then suddenly, oh, this kind of sucks. And, oh, we're in the winter. And, oh, Jesus, people are dying that we know. Oh, wait, we have to take care of one of our own. Like, it suddenly turns into, oh, wait, this is actually horrible. Like, we know we have to do our job, and this is what we have to do. But this is actually miserable. This isn't high school football. This isn't fun. This is terrible, actually. It's not saying it's not necessary, but it's terrible, right? Anyway, my point before was that to me, it's something I'm going to explore in a little bit with you guys. But to me, the fact that we're so very little military presence by the United States is really not plausible to me. The idea is super, but they left that off because it's no movie if suddenly the tanks, like a lot of forces come in. Because remember, they didn't, by the way, the Soviets came in from Mexico. And they're Mexican forces or Cubans who were communists at the time or still are, but communist light. So like, first of all, so they're coming in over the border. My wife's like, first of all, they didn't take over the whole country, just up to around the Rockies to the Mississippi. There's a whole other half of the country that still has industrial military complex that could absolutely come in and take care of whoever's coming in. Second of all, how are you invaded on land? You don't know there's troops massing somewhere. It's not all guerrilla tactics. Like if you had enough people to invade, like someone would notice. I mean, granted, it's not the days of the internet, but we still have spy satellites. We know where everything is. It's called intelligence gathering. Like we do it anyway. So the idea, the broad idea of this movie is super, but when you think about it, it doesn't really add up that it's something that could happen. It's more likely that we be victims of a nuclear assault than a land assault. But I understand we're taking the weapons off the table to look at it another way. But yeah, Steve, to your point, like, I don't buy there wasn't more military presence. I just don't buy that. I mean, but I was okay with it because that wasn't the point of the movie. The point of the movie was these kids surviving and becoming men and realizing that becoming men is a horrible thing to do. So it's a terrifying and soul-crushing thing you have to do to be a man in that situation. Man, and I mean man or woman, because obviously Leah Thompson and the other ones in it, and they're
adult.
Adult, yeah, that's what I mean. So I don't know, thoughts.
Yeah, I have a question, guys. Yeah. So, I mean, I think everybody is strong, like as far as their performances, their characters. They're all. If you don't find it interesting, then you never were going to.
Yep.
Because I think there's a lot of interesting aspects. It's not. Like, I know sometimes you mention faux patriotism, and I don't believe that this is that at all, because it's not like fluffy. You know what I mean? It's not like, because it's really dark at times. And here's the other thing. I don't look at Powers Booth's character, the older guy, if anybody's not sure, the older guy that shows up, the soldier that shows up out of nowhere, that joins their ranks. I don't really see him as a necessary thing, because he shows up, They show him how well they know what they're doing. You know, like where Patrick Swayze's kind of running the show. You know, he's like the point man. He's like RPG, right? You know, like they're doing these things, and yes, the you know, C. Thomas Howell yelling Wolverines, you know, holding his thing is a cringy thing because it's over time, you know, gets laughed at. However, it's still like they kind of figure out what to do and learn what to do. So I don't look at him as really necessary because he comes in and goes, well, this isn't all like, you know, like fun and games, you know, like you're gonna get, you know, hurt. I think we could have also learned that lesson by them just like learning it on their own with them getting hurt. Like they didn't have to have a guy be like Captain Buzzkill come in and tell them that they, you know, like, you know, it's not always going to be this way. You know, I'm not saying he had no value at all. Yeah. But just my opinion, I don't think he was that crazy necessary. And by the way, real quick, I guess I am also playing the role of Melanie today. I have some other trivia which I found really weird. You know how you always go, wow, that's a big age gap. Yeah. Powers Booth's character and Leah Thompson's character were originally going to have a romantic connection. Right?
No.
It was more like admiration.
Well,
with like, you know, you know, even if she felt something, it was one-sided.
Yeah.
And she was underage.
Yes.
She was high school.
I don't know. They just shipped her in from the in-laws or whatever.
Yeah, but I think she was playing a high school student.
Regardless,
you know,
very weird.
Kind of going on that, you know, I thought about that too. I think the whole thing is centered around high school kids, and now you say, well, it's a PG-13 movie. So I think to get people, and especially the younger moviegoers to the movies, it is centered around kids, almost like a Footloose or something like that, right? It's got that, it's got a heavy teenage, this is an issue, and the teenagers are all over it, you know, so I think that's probably why, because if it was a bunch of like 40-year-olds that are going to get their guns and go fight them off, I don't know if the teenage kids would love that as much and if it would draw them in.
Actually,
I don't know.
Steve, I will counter that. I agree with you is that if the demographic is teenagers, then you put teenagers in adult roles and see what's going to happen. And this movie does do a good job in not making it an easy situation. It makes it an awful situation for them. So again, I love the fact that it starts like a football game and they're cheering and they still have their college jackets on. And again, Scream Wolverines is very childish. Like, that's very childish. It's very, to me, like, this is what we do at football games. You know, and rallying behind the mascot, which is not how you win a battle. That's dumb. But they don't know that.
That's all they know.
Yeah, it's all they know.
That's all they know.
Steve, I would disagree with you. I think this movie would be good if you actually, I think teenagers would go see this movie if it was Red Dawn, but with like 60-year-olds, like Tommy Lee Jones and Clint Eastwood. And like if they were like way over the hill and had to kind of do the same thing. It wouldn't obviously be the same problem. But I think they would go see that as well.
I think he meant middle age.
Yeah, no, I think
he meant middle age wouldn't work.
But
I know middle age wouldn't work. Yeah, I'm going way older for that. I think that would be kind of neat.
Like a Stallone.
Sure. Oh, well, he gets all his work now because he is
Wolverine.
Wolverine. All right. Let me go back to Powers Booth. I agree with you upon reflection. Now that you said that, he is kind of pointless, except, and he could have done without him. Except that he does deliver one line, and I don't remember the line, but when they're at the campfire and C. Thomas Howell thinks he's a badass, and he's not. He now has bloodlust because he drank the deer blood, which was gross. Never do that.
No, but he lost his father.
I know.
And
right.
that brought him to it.
He is the one that grows up too fast. And the way that he grows up is with hatred. So rather than having this idea or purpose, his purpose is vengeance. It's not necessarily defending the United States. It's vengeance against his father because he never got to say bye, never saw his mother again. Suddenly he's an orphan, right? So
that's the scene when he's carving he's carving how many kills into his rifle, correct?
Which is bullshit. Yeah. I mean, that's bullshit. There's no soldier. I don't know any soldiers, so I'm not trying to.
He's not a soldier.
That's what I mean. That's my point. I don't think he's not a soldier. He's a killer. and he wants to be a killer. And C. Thomas Howell, Powers Booth, I forget his name, the captain, colonel, whatever.
All right.
And he says he looks at him in kind of disdain, like, that's not the Army, like, that's not how we roll. Like, that's not what we do.
Well, he said all that hate's going to eat you up.
It's going to eat you up. Right.
That's what he said.
Because he isn't properly trained as a soldier, right? They don't go in with hatred. They go in with orders. Well, right?
And let's not forget, let's also, sorry, I'm not trying
to hit it.
Point, but along with what you're saying, the point where they do, so if anybody hasn't seen the movie, there's a point where they discover that one of their own went to town and they basically made him swallow a tracking device. That that's how they kept finding them. So there's a point where they line up that guy that ate the tracking device, and they're debating on whether or not to kill him because the rest of them are not that warm about doing such a thing.
Yeah.
And see, Thomas Howell walks up and just like, just does it without that. Like, I'll take the debate away. I mean, obviously it's a terrible thing to happen to him, but it's also understandable.
Right.
Like, if you lose, I know the people who are around him are important, but his main cog, the people at home, the people that helped him along in life, gone. So he's looking at it like, I got nothing left. I'm taking as many out as I can in the process.
Right.
So it's like, it's understandable. Not that I relate in a warm way, but
isn't that kind of biblical also? Like, someone always plays the role of Judas, right? I mean, there's always that person, the mole or something.
Sure.
Isn't that kind of like,
it's good drama.
Someone has to be, it's like that popular story that someone betrayed someone, and it's always in your inner circle. So, So, I mean,
but Steve, it lends itself to the Soviet paranoia. Like, they're spies, they're everywhere, and they're watching us, and they're going to be, and even inadvertently, they're going to be watching us. They're somewhere. It's like movies after 9/11. There was a lot of horror movies out, and Jay, you know what I'm about to say because you've seen the same documentary as me, so I'm not going to make it like this an original idea, but you'll know what I'm talking about. Horror movies, like the killer would come and then disappear because he's still out there, just like Osama bin Laden, and it could happen again, and we never know when he's going to strike. Whereas in the Soviet paranoia, is like they're inside, they've infiltrated, and what are we going to do if a Soviet was one of our own? And those are all legit. And so to what Jay just mentioned about having to execute one of your own for those reasons, I will say. And this is what movies are supposed to do, particularly movies like this. So this movie isn't garbage. I just think it's too long. But besides that, it's not garbage because it's not great. It's not a great movie, but it's not garbage because it gives you situations that are morally gray and ambiguous. And it makes you have a discussion about what would you do in this situation. What are the other options? And the fact that there are other options that are not pursued, it makes you talk about it. What if it were you in that situation? What would you do? And it makes you go, well, he had no choice. Or, well, they could have let him force it. You run that way and don't ever find us again. And what way we were going to go, we're going to have to go a different way. There were other ways around shooting that kid. Even if they're not really obvious, there had to have been something else. But C. Thomas Howell comes along and says, here's our option. Boom. And that's it. And it lends to a discussion about what you would do in that situation, which it means it's written pretty well, right? At least that scene is written really well. It opens a conversation.
This might be more towards the end of this podcast, but I'm going to bring it up now. Watching this in 1984, knowing what we knew about our military, do we believe that this kind of thing can happen?
No.
Rather than maybe watching it now, because now this was 40 years about after Pearl Harbor, correct?
Yeah.
which was a
45
attack. 45 years.
Yeah.
So then we have 9/11 that happened to us now, right?
Yep.
And then we're watching currently the Ukraine thing.
Yep.
Do we think in 1984 this is more possible, or is this in 1984? We're pretty strong, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we're pretty tough and
Yep.
badass. Do we think that this is even remotely something that could happen?
Well, I would say no, and that's why it is not, and I'm not reflecting on the implausibility of the setup. I'm saying I think in 84 is not possible in 84. I think there's a hint of its possibility, and the only way that it would be possible if for whatever reason the rest of the world abandoned us, which they set up in the first typed paragraph in the movie just to get it rolling.
And by the way,
yeah,
quick, that you better pause that thing
Hard
if
to
you're
read,
not
yeah.
ready to read that, because it's fast.
Yep.
I had to go by twice and to read it again. I'm like,
Yeah, like
all right.
they're like, this happens, NATO dissolves. Like,
what happened? Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like it was like, I mean, so to go with what you were saying, they got right to it.
Yeah, they got right to
like, yeah, NATO's dissolved. They're coming.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like they're going right to the invasion. So at least they did that though.
Yeah.
To make it like
Sure.
okay, so it's fiction based with our real fears. Come,
Yep.
and sit by the fire and enjoy the movie, like that
Yep.
type of thing, because
Well,
they had to set it up with something. If
Right,
they
and
just said, here they come, and it's like, wait, what about NATO?
Yeah,
Everybody would be
yeah.
like, what about this?
So I would say, though, in 1984, growing up, I don't know about you guys, I remember being a younger kid, and it was always discussed that, hey, listen, we had air raid sirens in town. I don't know if you guys had them. We had them on these phone poles, these big yellow air raid sirens, and they would say, listen, if those go off, and they would point out, these are some of the buildings in town. If they have this sign, it was the fallout shelters.
Sure.
This is where you need to go.
Yeah.
So they were still talking about that in the
Yeah.
early 80s.
Sure.
Now, that wasn't for an invasion. That was really for the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
But they were still talking about that.
Sure.
So it was definitely still a I don't know if it was fresh. It was at the tail end of it, but
Yeah.
but people were still worried about it.
Well, yeah, movies are a reflection of the worries of the time. So, to the fact that this movie was even made and greenlit, I mean, that somebody thought that people would go see a movie about this, and I would say it's a legitimate. I don't know about concern, but enough that it's on people's mind, like about what about our way of life? Like, what if our way of life went suddenly down the tubes? That's all we really care about. We just want to be comfortable in our way of life. Sometimes that sounds like privilege, but it's true. Like, that's why we are defended the way we are, right? So that we can do the things that we hope to do, to enjoy the freedoms that we have. So I would say, yeah, it's on, I don't think it's an exaggerated fear, but it's still enough that it makes it curious enough to see what the movie's about, which is, and I'd like to touch on this topic, Steve, thank you for setting me up, is because this movie, at times, I don't know if I should feel patriotic or if I should feel anti-war. Because sometimes they're just blown away commies, which if anybody that invades, I'd be like, yeah, we got to go get them. Woohoo, like a Rocky IV moment, wave that flag. Or, and the music telegraphs to me how I should be feeling. Very patriotic, high flutes, drums, all that sort of thing. And then there are other times where it's like, shit's going down and warfare is horrible and what it does to people, even enemies. Like, it's not a good thing. And there are times that I don't know if I should feel patriotic or if I should feel like, oh my God, war is all hell. Why are we even doing this? Now, I'm saying we should just roll down and lie down and get invaded. But I'm just saying, like, wow, this is really terrible. So to me, I don't know. The movie to me is confusing. It wants to go all in on the patriotism, but then it kind of dials it back. And it's more patriotic at the beginning than the end, but still the end has patriotic moments. I don't know. It seemed to me confused at times. A little confused.
Well, which is good
No,
because
sure.
they're kids.
Yep.
So kids, like, what I mean, they have no training in this, unless their parents trained them all their lives. But still,
Yeah.
it's not like it's not authentic training from an organization.
Right.
like
Yeah.
military.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, so they're going by, and I'm actually psyched it went the way it did. The original writer, and was going to be like the director. He wanted to turn it into something where it became like Lord of the Flies, like where they really, really imploded big time.
Yep.
And that would have sucked. I think it wouldn't have been as fun. No, but like it would have been like just disturbing, and that's it.
Well, not only
like, great, I feel even worse. Like
Yeah.
you know, what I mean, this doesn't keep you from feeling bad. It does. It makes you feel bad at times.
Yep.
But I think that would have been worse. Like it just would have been a lot harder a pill to swallow.
I would say, you know what, it like there was an innocence to these kids in high school before this all happened, and even like in my personal life, I didn't really care about history much in school. I really, I kind of grew up thinking, hey, listen, we're America. We're tough. This is never going to happen. 9/11 really opened my eyes, and maybe that's where I lost my innocence and thinking, holy crap, this can happen. And it is scary when it happens. And I think in the movie, when it's Jed, Patrick Swayze, he's looking at the picture of, was it him and his brother maybe? There was a Little League picture he's looking at.
Yep.
And so he goes back to the youth when things were good, and it was innocence. It was childhood. It was what they're supposed to worry about, playing a baseball game. It wasn't what he's dealing with now, where now he's killed people. He became an adult. He's living this this horrible nightmare. So, it really brings you back to that between innocent and now being a mature adult with dealing with things that you've never really talked about doing, other than maybe going hunting with his father. He's never had to kill anyone.
Right.
So, that's a pretty drastic thing.
Yeah, I agree. I believe the picture was the one that C. Thomas Howell shot. I want to say that, because that was right after that scene. And he's crying and he's looking at the picture. I thought it was. Is it not Jed? I don't remember. I don't know. It still could have been his brother, but it was after that scene.
Yeah.
So and I do enjoy, and I want to bring up Charlie Sheen, because he was pretty good back in the day. He was good after, but he just turned into a train wreck. But man, him and Jed's relationship, they're brothers, and I loved it because he was obviously the lieutenant colonel. Like, Jed was making the decisions. He's the person in charge. He's the general. And then Charlie Sheen was the one that had to go and report on troop morale. And here's what the guys are thinking, while Patrick Swayze's up on like in a crow's nest trying to figure out what he's gonna do next. It had a very Frodo Samwise relationship, and for those that aren't nerds, Samwise just did everything so that Frodo could make the decisions and be in a good enough shape to keep doing the mission. And Samwise was there to back him up with whatever, get him food, talk to people, and do all the shit work in between, like a sous chef and a chef. The sous chef does all the work, and the chef makes all the decisions. And I think it was really neat how they kind of nailed that. It was I felt very obvious, and it's good. I'm not saying it's obvious it's bad. It's obvious it was good. He was obviously like the lieutenant colonel to his colonel. And I like that part. It was neat to see. And they were the last two, right? They were the last two. And I never would have saw that coming. I figured Charlie Sheen would have died at some point. And I didn't see that. Well, they didn't survive, but they were the last two.
And the playground, right? The playground, how symbolic is that?
Sure.
Because the father mentions the playground when they went to go see him when he was locked up. And he said, remember when I was pushing you kids on the swings or something like that, right? That brought them way back to their childhood again. So they kind of end
right
as like kids, right? He tells them, wait, dad will be here. But he knew his father died, because didn't he see it in the binoculars? He saw he was in the lineup and he saw his father get killed.
Yep.
So he knew he wasn't going to join them, but he just told him that just to kind of to take his mind off what was going on.
Okay.
And then it brought him back to their youth again.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. And that you can't go back. Bottom line, once you rip that Band-Aid, you can't put it back on. You can't unring the bell. You know what I mean? It's over, and that's that. So, Jason.
Why don't we get to Final Judgment?
Sure.
It's time now for final judgment. Are you ready to rubber stamp this bitch? Here's the final judgment.
All right, at this point, up until this point, we have been doing nothing but opinion, but now it's time for fact. We're rubber stamping it into how well does it hold up today?
What is happening?
I don't know. I was just randomly throwing shit
That's
out
okay.
there, man. I wasn't reading.
That's cool.
I wasn't reading.
Whatever. It's like, whoa, what is happening?
I was just throwing. I know it made no sense.
That's all right.
I mean, it makes no sense.
Judge.
Hey, a lot of our movies don't make sense.
That's true. All right. Who wants to go first? Anybody go first? Or you want to throw it to me? What do you want to do?
I'll go.
Hit it, Jay.
I'll go. All right. So how well does it hold up? I mean, I would say. I mean, there are parts absolutely not. So I'm going to go 50-50. There's no, like, on some, and then there's other parts where, I mean, I think still people would get a kick out of it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I mean, is it realistic at all times? No. But, like, it's not ultra crazy unrealistic either.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, 'cause it taps into real, like, insurgents and stuff like that, like, where people would say, well, screw it. I don't have to play by the rules. I mean, I didn't sign up for this. You came into my house, you know, and I'm not going to let you just have it. Now, it also goes dark. I mean, think about this. Jennifer Grey plants a fucking bomb. And what was it? A post office or a bank? Like,
I don't know. Some occupied store that she went in and just.
Regardless, right? It was a store. It was a building that people were coming in and out of, and she sets it all. You know, like it's like a timed thing. You know, but it blows up and kills like a lot of people. Now, the town is not just run by. It's not just inhabited by Russians. There are some people that are walking along. Because remember when they first arrive into town, they're like, "Hey, Lewis." Oh, Lewis won't talk to us.
Yeah.
You know, the old man is like looking like afraid. And then they go in that store and that lady is still working there. Oh my God, we're looking for you. You better not stay. It's like, first off, why would you show up in the middle of the day?
Yeah.
Like, if, you know, like come out of nowhere. Like, let's say what if there's a dress code? You know what I mean? Like, you know, oh wait, look for three guys wearing, you know, military looking stuff that doesn't look like us. Let's kill them. But regardless, what I'm saying is she did like a kind of a, even though it was her own home, you know, her own hometown that she was defending, she kind of did like a terrorist act there. Meaning she could have taken out a shitload of normal people that like weren't Russian or so that was kind of a big old risk. They didn't tap into it. They just showed, you know, but if you're really looking at the movie there, and the point where they shoot that guy that's in the Jeep up in the hills at first. You know, they're showing a kind of a human aspect to the invaders, meaning like they're not just saying that these are robots from Russia that you must kill. No, you're actually taking out a guy that's like, hey, bring back your girlfriend. You know, like maybe you meet me back later. You know, they're actual people who are there because the people above them tell them they have to be. You know, they're people. They're not like they're not the Russian government.
They're not Evan Drago.
You know, they happen to.
They're not Drago.
Well,
Right? No,
And I think, Jay, on your point there is the last scene when the guy should have been shot, and the guy has the gun. He says, "No, just go." The Russian guy, general, he says, "Listen, just go." He was gonna give his resignation papers. He was kind of he didn't want to shoot people anymore, and he let him go.
Yeah, I think
so
he was
that's
a
that
Cuban
whole
guy.
thing.
Mexican. He was part of the Mexican invasion forces.
It was like almost in the last scene.
Yep.
Yeah, but that was where they showed their human side, right?
Yep. At least that guy.
Right. Yeah.
At least that guy.
Right. No. So yes, like so. Therefore, it's not just. I do like that they're showing people, not like because you see the guy in the Jeep about to get shot and killed, like you know, and you can see the panic on his face. You know, like he's really scared and worried. So it's not like they didn't just make it like robots. Like I said, like here's this crash test dummy I'm about to shoot. Okay, all right, next.
Yep.
So in that aspect, I mean that type of story is timeless. You know, like especially if you're like seeing humans there, like you get to feel a little bad. Is it over the top? Sure, but that was by design. Yeah. And by the way, I saw the remake. It was fucking awful.
Who is the enemy? Who is invading?
I forget.
All right, that's how memorable it is. Really nobody know who the bad guy is.
Yeah,
right.
no. The trailer looked cool because they had special effects of planes just like falling from the sky into like regular neighborhoods.
Okay.
So that looked cool. Made you want to check it out at least to see where they went with it. And was it bad?
All right, that's too bad.
This was way better. So
all right.
So I'm gonna say 50-50 because
continue. It doesn't continue on. So even though did they call it Red Dawn 2? It's not like it's a continuation.
No, reboot.
Yeah. Reboot.
Yeah. Total reboot. Just like here, it never happened before, so here you go.
So the forces have to be Middle Eastern.
Yeah, 50-50 on that.
All right. Steve.
Probably. It was not. It was the bad was the memorable part.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Of how bad it was.
All right, Steve.
So I'm going to go 50-50, and the reason why is I believe this can happen. I believe something like this can happen. Maybe not to the level they have it happen, right? I get you. But you know what? If I saw this in 1984, I'd be like, that's a cool movie. I'm not scared. That's not going to happen. I don't see that happening. I thought we had a stronger country, especially growing as a kid. I had the innocence. That's not happening. 9/11 happened. You got the Ukraine thing going on.
Enough.
Now, Ukraine is not America. I get that. But could there be things on a smaller scale that could happen like that? Anything could happen at any time. Where I think the concept scares me a little bit. I think, is it going to be the high school quarterback that's going to save the day with no military experience? That's where it goes, okay, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
All right? That's where I throw it completely off. So I think they have a good movie. I think watching it now is scarier than watching it then. Maybe, because, we are like 80 years now away from Pearl Harbor, right? But still, I think that with 9/11 and everything else, it has to make you think that we're not as safe as you might think, especially growing up. It really goes, wow, crap, these things happen. And there's a reason why billions of dollars gets put in our military all the time. There's a reason why we have a military. The threat is always going to be real.
Yep.
And so just... am I afraid of leaving the house now? No, not at all. And do I think tomorrow, would I be shocked if another type of 9/11 type thing happened? Yeah, I would. But, we all remember where we were during 9/11. We all remember what the hell is next. It was like a movie for a while. It was like,
sure.
And I've never lived through that, and I wouldn't want to live through that again.
Yep. It's
scary stuff. And so in that aspect, that's where I think it holds up.
Cool.
I don't again the teenage thing. It doesn't hold up, and that's Hollywood being Hollywood.
Yep.
And but that's where I am with the movie. I liked it though. I think it's a good movie, and there's somewhere I go, geez, that was a waste of $4. That was definitely worth it. I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah.
And I thought it went by quick. That's just me.
That's cool. And so Steve and I just want to. I thought you were going with the take that you thought that you were going to have to get rushed into the hills and live off of soup cans and deer meat. So I apologize for not waiting to hear your take because I made a face. But I always make a face not in a bad way, right? So obviously I respect everybody's opinions here, so I don't want to come across like that. All right, so here's the deal. I always bitch about movies, even ones that I like. Certainly there's a lot of things in here that don't add up. How does a ragtag group of people know exactly where Russian forces are going to be at any time with no recon and no satellites? How do you dig into the hard ground of in the winter in Colorado without to make perfectly square trapdoor traps? I don't see how that happens. I don't see how we go from, first of all, it should be way more snow in Colorado in the mountains. And we seem to go from scenes with snow to desert to snow to desert, back to snow, and then back to desert. I didn't know what time of the day it was, what season it was. That's just me being nitpicky. The fact of the matter is that the movie does hold up. I try to go either. I try to just commit. So I'd say it holds up. I'd say it holds up because the themes are still prescient. Not prescient, that's the wrong word. The themes are still valid, in that, it all seem like fun and games, but eventually you have to grow up, and you're either going to grow up quick and not adjust, or you're going to grow up quick and adjust properly. We have evidence of one side of the group growing up the right way and one of them growing up the wrong way. And it gets at the brutality of warfare. Even when you're on the winning side, you're on the quote unquote good side. Like you're the one that's trying to stave off evil in this case. Or if you get invaded, you're going to do whatever. I think it's a good movie. It opens up conversations. What would you do in this situation? Even if the situation is completely out of control, like totally implausible. I think, by the way, totally implausible. I just don't think, but you can't have the movie without the implausible setup. I don't think there's ever going to be a ground attack or an invasion of the United States like this. 9/11's another matter. That's another matter.
Right.
I'm talking like a straight up boots on the ground invasion just isn't going to happen.
Because there was no conventionality in 9/11. Yeah. Like there was no there was no convention, no conventional war.
Right.
Like they didn't come in military. They snuck in by saying, "Okay, shave your beards, watch some, get some hookers the night before, and then get inside of a plane and then stab some innocent people." And so it was in that sense. And I'm not knocking your point down, Steve, because it absolutely still shocked the shit out of us, and we were all like, saying, "What the fuck?"
But I will say this to Chris, and one of the things watching the movie is there was a time where they were listening to the radio broadcast.
I love that scene.
Remember they said from Radio Free America. Yeah. They're like, so that's 40 miles away or wherever, and then they give some some stuff over the air that's like little tips that the
chair is on the wall. The chair is on the wall, and the mustache.
John has a long mustache.
Long curly mustache.
Yeah. John has a long mustache.
What that means. I fucking love. They never say what that. We don't know.
And I love why that I don't know. They don't tell me what that means. I love it.
My guess. Here's my guess on that. My guess is we made it there, and I'm telling you on the other side that we made it there.
Well, it doesn't matter. You're right. That's what you think.
No.
That's what you think, but we don't know, and that's the best part. I love it. I love that.
But
it's pretty great.
What I thought of at that point was the free America. Now, again, I don't believe this would happen to us. I hope not. But I look back to what's happening in Ukraine, and when they first invaded, there were parts of Ukraine. It's everyday life. There was nothing that changed in some of those cities while they're being attacked in their country in other parts. So it made me think of that a little bit, and that was kind of realistic a little.
Sure.
You had the media that was in other cities going, well, about 20 miles from here, things are very dangerous, right? Yep. And where they were, you look at people, they were walking around like it was just another day. They were going to work. It was just another day. So that's kind of what got me from present day, what we're experiencing, or what we see anyways, and then what that was talking about.
So I'll just finish it up. I'd say it does hold up. I think the only thing it suffers from is that it's an idea that's really good that that doesn't have, it has room to progress and for the characters to develop, but it's still a one-trick pony idea, and it's very difficult to end this movie, which is why I don't like the end of this movie. It just stops. Now, I don't know how you fix that, but I just think it goes on too long with a lot of set pieces that don't develop into anything. It's just, and I'm not even talking about shooting Russians. I'm just talking like I don't know, where is this even going? So now that's just how I felt. I'm not saying that's the truth. All I do know was that around the hour and 10-minute mark, I'm like, oh my God, it's another 45 minutes of this. And I was kind of done. I wanted it to be done in an hour and a half because I felt as though they fleshed out all the ideas, and they did at about 1 hour and 15 minutes, I think.
Well, it's Leah Thompson. She's the one that's remaining, right? Is she the one that talks?
And another dude. There's another dude, like innocuous.
But she's one of them.
Yeah.
I have a conspiracy theory.
Oh God.
So in 1985, she snuck into the DeLorean.
All right.
And she went back.
All right.
And she really did die, but she changed the future.
Fair enough.
So that's how.
Got it.
She's one of the remaining characters left. And
that's why she's wearing a puffy vest. Her winter jacket's a puffy vest. Well, that's it. Yeah. That's cool, man. All right.
All right, man. Well, that was our show, and I'd like to thank Steve Lavoie for filling in for Melanie today. You did a great job filling in, but there is only one. There can be only one. So we miss you, Melanie, and we'll be looking forward to you returning. We'd like to also thank you again, Steve, for your hard work on the intro and all the other, bumpers and whatever you want to call them. All our voices. Yeah, and thank you, man. and you help make it better. So also like to thank Draco and the Malfoys for our theme song, and please like this video and rate and review and subscribe, so that'll help us a big time. So I am Jay Fortier, on the behalf of Chris Martineau and the absent Melanie Howerton, I'd like to thank you again for joining us here on the Film Crickets. Until next time, movies may not age like fine wine, but we drink it anyway. Bye.
Film Crickets, chirp about movie.